What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so did you guys know that some U.S. restaurants and servers oppose Republicans' no tax on tips budget proposal? Did you guys know that? I had no idea. You would figure that at least the servers would not oppose this. And you would think also, this is the main impetus for as to why I'm covering this, is because I was curious. Like, why would servers, most of them, like especially like waiters in restaurants, they pretty much, all of their wages for the most part come from tips. Why would they want that taxed? I mean, I think 43 states, of course it's in the news article, 43 states allow restaurants to pay servers $2.13 minimum. Some of them pay more, sure, but they do that because they know that people make a lot in tips, especially good servers. I used to know a guy, like this is anecdotal, sure, but I knew a guy that worked at the casino. This was about 10 years ago. A friend of mine worked at the casino, and he made $60,000 a year. And guess how much he made an hour? $1.75. That at the time. He's probably, if he's still working there, I haven't talked to him in years, but if he's still working there, I'm sure it's up now. You know, it's $2 or whatever it is at this point. But, you know, at the time, he was only making $1.75 an hour. And he was making freaking $60,000 a year. It's insane. He just worked at a casino. He's a cocktail waitress. A waiter, sorry. Called him a waitress. And maybe he's a they, them. I don't know. I have no idea. He may have switched. He may have transitioned over. You never know. But, needless to say, dude made a lot of money. And I would imagine that he would be on board with this. I can't imagine any argument. Y'all, before we get into the video, and don't cheat. By the way, don't cheat and wait until the end of the video. Y'all let me know right now. Right now. Do y'all oppose no tax on tips? And think about any argument. What argument could you come up with for no tax, for why you would oppose no taxes on tips? Y'all go ahead and do that right now. I won't wait, to be honest. I can't wait for that. Some segments of the U.S. restaurant industry don't support President Donald Trump's proposal to eliminate federal taxes on tips, saying it would help too few people and obscure bigger issues in the way tipped workers are paid. Is that so? Well, I wonder what those obscure issues are. It would help too few people. Hang on just a second. What do you mean by that? Help too few people? Yeah, but is it something that's going to help? Okay, so these people are anti-solutionists, I guess. I don't know if I just made that up, but they are anti-solutionists, right? We can't have one solution to fix every problem. We go through fixing problems, creating solutions, one at a time. That's what this does. It's just insane when I read that. I'm like, what? Help too few people, really. And obscure bigger issues, but they don't really say what those issues are, do they? No, they don't. They're just making stuff up. But once again, you know, leave it to the corporate press to try to manipulate you into thinking that Republicans are bad. And we're not even going to mention Democrats. Well, maybe in an obscure way we'll mention a Democrat, which they do. The Independent Restaurant Coalition, which represents nearly 100,000 restaurants and bars, has appealed to Congress to reconsider the proposal, which is part of the president's spending bill. I wish they would have put mandatory in front of that. But, you know, instead of presidents, because think about what was just said right there. The president's spending bill. Really? The president's? No. I'm sorry. It's mandatory spending. That spending bill must be legislated every single year because that's Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Sure, they add on a couple of other things, which we don't like when they do that. But regardless, it's all mandatory spending. It's not Donald Trump's bill. It was written by Congress. I can't stand the corporate press, folks. In case you haven't noticed, Even some workers who rely on tips say they oppose making them tax deductible. Huh. Interesting. I think there's a huge hole in this concept of no tax on tips because a lot of restaurant workers aren't receiving tips in the first place, said Elena Cali, or Cal, however you want to pronounce that, a bartender in Austin, Texas, and president of the Restaurant Workers Union. Okay, so there's the argument, folks. That's the people that oppose this. Because some restaurant workers, notice they didn't say servers, workers don't get tips, like cooks and managers and prep workers and dishwashers. Those people don't get tips. Okay, so you're going to oppose your coworkers that do work based upon tips. You're going to oppose a tax break for them. Wow. Jealous much. It's insane, y'all. It really is. It's not helping most kitchen workers, and oftentimes those are the people who are being paid the least. Once again, so what? That is how the game goes. You know, you get paid differently for different positions due to importance, or you know, how much work you got to put into it, or how much prep there is for it, or how much experience you have, or how much skills you have, or how much education you received. There's varying degrees of how much you get paid. Sounds like they went and asked a bunch of communists about, hey, what do you think about no taxes on tips? And of course they're going to oppose that. Tips included in sprawling tax cut package. Once again, tax cut package. It's mandatory spending. It's your Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. For now, making tips tax-free appears to have broad support among lawmakers. Both Trump and his Democratic rival in last year's U.S. presidential election, former Vice President Kamala Harris, campaigned on the concept. Yeah, but it was clearly astroturfed by Kamala Harris. She clearly just robbed that from Donald Trump and said, yeah, that looks popular. We're going to do that too. The House included it in its tax cut package approved last month. The bill would eliminate federal income taxes on tips for people working in jobs that have traditionally received them as long as they make less than $160,000 in 2025. The Senate Finance Committee passed a modified version on Monday. Senators cap deductions at $25,000 and want to phase them out for individuals whose income exceeds $150,000. Eligibility would be based on earnings as of December 31st, 2024. So it's going to be retroactively constituted, or it's going to be retconned into existence, folks. So to go all the way back, like I said, to December 31st, 2024. So that's fascinating. I didn't know that. But, you know, it's funny. They capped it at $25,000. I wonder why that is. Why would they do that? Why? It's just interesting. It's fascinating to me. Why $25,000? Because, you know, once again, taking it back to what I was talking about earlier, you know, a lot of these servers, waiters, whatever it may be, they only get paid $2 and whatever change an hour. They make most of their wages on tips. So I just find it fascinating. Why not make that cap at like $40,000 or $50,000? Like that just didn't make any sense to me. Because, you know, their hourly wage, they're only making maybe $4,000 or $5,000 a year, if that. That's not a lot of money right there, which they pay federal taxes on that. The greedy senators, of course, they want their money. Right? Look, I understand. I worked at Pizza Hut for like 6 years. And, you know, every once in a while when a waiter or somebody would call in sick, I would go and wait tables. And I never claimed any of those tips that I made. Sometimes I'd make a good bit. It's a Pizza Hut now. So it was never really, you know, more than $100. But there was a lot of times I would make $80, $90 easy working the buffet or whatever. So, and I would never claim any of those tips. You don't have to. So I imagine that does happen a lot. But there are places like casinos and a lot of restaurants, they do tip sharing. So you got to claim your tips, which is fascinating. But I wonder why they decided to put that cap on there. I don't know. I find that fascinating. And why 25,000? Why not 30,000 or 40,000 even? But it is what it is. Both the House and Senate committee measures would apply through the 2028 tax year. The Finance Committee specified that cash tips qualify, but said the term applied to tips paid in cash, charged to credit cards, or received from other employees under a tip-sharing arrangement. Main industry trade groups support tax-free tips. Wary of wading into politics, many restaurant chains contacted by the Associated Press about tax-free tips didn't respond or referred questions to the National Restaurant Association, including Waffle House, the Cheesecake Factory, First Watch, and the parent companies of Olive Garden, Applebee's, and Chili's. The National Restaurant Association, a trade organization that represents nearly 500,000 U.S. restaurants and bars, applauded the House's passage of Trump's spending bill and said it wants to see tax-free tips. The association estimates the measure would benefit more than 2 million servers and bartenders. But the U.S. restaurant industry has more than 12 million workers, including dishwashers and chefs, according to the government data. The Independent Restaurant Coalition says the no tax on tips proposal leaves out too many of those workers. Once again, jealous much, do you? A push to eliminate taxes on service charges. The coalition wants Congress to eliminate taxes on service charges, which are being used to compensate employees at an increasing number of restaurants. Around 15% of U.S. restaurants add some form of service charge to customers' bills, according to the National Restaurant Association. George Scandalous, George Scandalous, a pizza restaurant owner in Moscow, Idaho, was tired of seeing servers count out hundreds of dollars of tips at the end of the night while people in the kitchen scrubbed the floor on their hands and knees, so he started experimenting with different compensation models. Is that so? You know what? What's so fascinating about this? It's like these people, right, with their thought processes. This is as simple as the guy sees a problem, right? Then he looks to the left and sees a button that says fix all problems. And he's like, I don't know what to do about this situation. Push the button. That's all you got to do, right? If you're worried about your dishwashers, the people that aren't getting paid tips, for crying out loud, implement a tip sharing arrangement. Or, how about this, my guy? Give your dishwashers and cooks and servers, prep workers, give them a raise. It's insane, y'all. It really is. People are just, I'm not going to say it. Scandalous now has a gratuity-free policy at his restaurant. So, once again, the communist motto. They don't want anybody to be well off and good. They want everybody dirt floor poor. This is why all communism ends with piles and piles of unalived people. It's insane. It really is. This is why communism doesn't work. Jealousy, folks. That is jealousy. So now, instead of implementing a tip sharing kind of program, he just says no tips. Everybody's going to be broke around here. Once again, folks, people are not smart. There are some people out there like, how do you run a business and you're that dumb? Like, seriously, I'm not trying to be mean to this person. I'm not trying to be mean at all. I'm being dead serious. Dead serious. I mean, that's ridiculous. Do tip sharing or something. Instead, no tips at all. Everybody's going to be broke. That's insane. It really is. He charges a 20% service fee that is distributed to all employees and helps pay for benefits like paid vacation and parental leave. The vast majority of customers appreciate the effort, he said. Yeah, that's ridiculous, y'all. It really is. Just silly. These people are just silly. Why, they see somebody making a lot of money and they're mad about that. So then they implement some sort of stupid, ridiculous policy to make those people poor. It's going to force you to pay a tip, a service fee. That's forcing tips on you. I mean, can we not see the flaws in the logic here? Once again, just do tip sharing, something like that, so all your employees can flourish. But instead, no, we're gonna do something different here. We're just gonna do something different. We're gonna charge the customer more, so we get less business. These people just, I don't know, they just don't make any sense to me, and they frustrate the hell out of me. And I've gone way too long for what I really wanted to. I wanted to keep this to about 10-12 minutes. But as you can see, I've gone way long because stupidity reigns in this country, folks. Sometimes it does. Sometimes people just can't help themselves. But, you know, a communist will always vote for communism. We'll say it like that. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Mine blows me. But like I said, y'all smash that like button, subscribe if you're new around here, share this video anywhere and everywhere you can, and sign up, become a member. Help me deliver some news to you guys. It would greatly help grow the channel, help this movement expand and explode, and just, y'all do all that, y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.